if you're not saying. Ducks rented.
Just see
Really
if
up
that
to
was,
you.
if she has comps,
And the
I'll
same
look
with,
at it.
Like when Gwen getting dressed up at all. But the only time she does is for her kids' weddings.
there's the one time a year that you get.
Put her under here. Just a yes and
Yep, I did. Call the meeting to order. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge Welcome, everybody. I understand we have some Augie students here. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We'll find this gripping.
Now,
They might. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting held September 26th and October 5th.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bev, anybody wishing? No? May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Deanne? Good news report.
Well, good evening. This is the time of the year that many high school seniors are facing some pretty tough questions about their life and their future. Where will they go to college? And maybe more importantly, how are they going to pay for their education? A Washington High School senior doesn't have to worry about how he is going to pay for college. His involvement in the JROTC program, that's the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, is his ticket to a full ride scholarship for attending any college that offers a continuation of the high school JROTC program. Zach Lee has joined us this evening. He's completed a series of requirements, including a face-to-face interview to earn his full ride scholarship. Zach and his instructors are here this evening to talk a little bit about JROTC, Zach's involvement, and perhaps his plans for the future. He asked if I was going to ask him questions or if he just had to talk. So he walked in and I said, "You're just going to talk." So here we go. Here's Zach.
Hello, my name is Zach Lee. I'm the executive officer at Washington High School for the JROTC program. The scholarship that I did was actually for Naval ROTC because a lot of my family is Navy and we're from the coast. I moved here my sophomore year about 2 years ago. And so ever since then I've been thoroughly involved in JROTC, whether it be competition teams, color guards, and extracurricular activities. And for me, going into the military after college or whatever I did just made sense for me because it offers a way to get my degree and then propel my job using that degree and from experience that I get in the Navy. And so to get this scholarship, I had to do this really long application. And then I did an interview over Skype with an admiral, and then I did a PT test when I was out at summer camp this past summer with JROTC, the JROTC program. We do a summer camp every summer, the first week after school gets out. And I had a friend of mine Staff Sergeant Morgan of the U.S. South Dakota Army National Guard helped me do my PT test, and then from there, I went to a face-to-face interview. My mom drove me out to Minneapolis, Minnesota, this past Monday, I believe, and we went to speak face-to-face, and we had a long interview, a nice long chat, and he told me right then and there that I had the scholarship, and so I have, as you know already, full ride scholarship to whichever school it has to have NROTC, so I'm in the process of applying to Yale, Virginia Tech, and University of Virginia.
Great.
Not real proud, are you, Mom?
And I invited Lieutenant Colonel Rodney Burmeister as the instructor at Washington. I invited him to just say a little bit about Zach as well, so.
Good evening, Board. Also with me here is the other instructor from Washington High Junior ROTC, that's Sergeant First Class Terry Fink. With Zach as our executive officer, it just makes the program just truly a joy to be a part of. We're not here to recruit people for the military, even though, of course, in this instance, Zach is setting himself for a career in the military, but we're here to try and instill in our young students, cadets, a sense of citizenship and leadership, and Zach definitely exemplifies that and then some. So take a look at well, we just finished a short course on leadership this last week, and in one of the discussion questions, the scenario presented was a friend says that you can't teach leadership in the classroom. It begins with the family. And I guess this is just a perfect example of, with Zach's family, with his mom, with his dad, the foundation they set of citizenship, patriotism to the country and everything else. Zach is just further exemplifying that. And so it makes it easy for Sergeant Fink and I to take a student of Zach's caliber and to be able to, ride their coattails on the back of Zach's success. And I guess I just wanted to, address the board and just say how proud we are to have Zach as a student of ours in JROTC, and I'm sure how proud Mr. Nold was to have him as a student during his tenure at Washington. Thank you.
And we too are proud, so thank you.
What do you plan on studying?
As of right now, I'm planning on studying engineering. I went out to CTE to see if I enjoyed engineering because it's something that I've thought about for a long time, switching back and forth between engineering and medical field. But as of right now, it's either going to be mechanical or electrical engineering.
Do you have a first choice school?
Well, it's tough. Right now, I'm torn between Yale and Virginia Tech. I'm more biased towards Virginia Tech because I grew up in Virginia for 15 years, so that's one of the schools that I grew up knowing all of my friends, watching their brothers and sisters going there, and so I'm biased, but we'll see.
Keep your options open.
Absolutely.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to conflicts of interest. I received none. Are there any that anyone needs to bring up? Great. May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Supplement consent agenda, claims to Sanford Health. May I please have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes with an abstention from Board Member Ryder. May I please have a motion for claims to Avera?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes with an abstention from Board Member Parker. Now we will move on to reports of the superintendent. Dr. Maher.
Thank you. We have a number of reports here tonight that really are all kind of culminating information from the last school year. Here to deliver each of those reports is our Director of Federal Programs, Demi Moon.
Thank you. Good evening. Are we starting with accountability?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, beginning with the accountability report this evening. The accountability report comes to us as a result of the state report card, district report cards, and school building report cards being released to the public after they were embargoed. That release came last Tuesday, October 5th. And so this is the first public board meeting that I have had a chance to report and comment on that data. So moving on, the first thing I'll talk about this evening are the performance indicators that are used in order to create the report cards and the SPI, which stands for School Performance Index, at the building level. So I will talk about each of those performance indicators as a district. The first performance indicator is participation. School districts are required to have 95% of their students participate in the state assessment. And for South Dakota, that's the Smarter Balance Assessment. The Sioux Falls School District had 99.38% of their students participate in the ELA, which is the English Language Arts portion of that assessment, and 99.32% participate in math. So well above the 95% requirement. The next the next performance indicator is the ELA and math proficiency indicator. With the Smarter Balance Assessment, we take that in grades 3 through 8 and 11. That assessment was given in the spring of 2016. And on this slide, you can see the percent of students who tested proficient or advanced. And that is the goal of the state of South Dakota, is to have all students test proficient and advanced. And so the report comes out with what percent the Sioux Falls School District has in those two categories and compared to the state of South Dakota. We exceeded the state average in both language arts and in math, with 54.78% testing proficient or advanced in ELA and 45.93% testing proficient or advanced in math. Taking a look at those summative numbers on a grade-by-grade basis, the next slide shows you the 2015 Sioux Falls School District as compared to the state results on a grade-by-grade basis. And then next, the second set of columns is the 2016 grade-by-grade results. And these are the percent of students who test proficient or advanced. And for this slide, it's the English Language Arts scores. You will see the scores that are in the first and third column that are bold and not the lighter gray one. That is where the Sioux Falls School District exceeded the state percentages, which in this case is all grades except grade 3. Dr. Maher.
Demi, if you'll allow me to interject, that's one of the things we talk about publicly all the time is at that third grade level, we're behind our statewide peers. And in this case, it's in English Language Arts. And then from that point forward, we're never behind again. So it speaks to me to two issues. Issue number one is, I think we have great things going on in our classrooms that allows our students to catch up and never go behind their statewide peers again. It also speaks to a readiness level for our students because it takes us until third grade to get them, or until fourth grade actually, to get them caught up with their statewide peers.
Okay. Moving then to the exact same set of results, but in the category of math. You can see in 2015 what Dr. Maher described is true again, starting in fourth grade. All the way through 11th grade, we exceed our statewide peers in math as far as percent who are proficient or advanced. However, this last year in 2016, that was true for grades 6 through 11. In grades 3, 4, and 5, we are slightly below our statewide peers in the category of math. Okay. Questions on those two slides before I move on? This year being our second year of Smarter Balance results that we received back as a district, we have the ability to be measured in the area of growth. And when growth is measured on the Smarter Balance results, 2015 serves as our baseline year. From 2015 moving forward, every student is compared to the growth that their peer with the same baseline score made. So moving from 15 to 2016, if a student established their baseline score, all of their peers within the Smarter Balance Consortium who were at that same initial score, if our students maintained or exceeded the growth of their peers, then we got credit in this category. So as it stands, the Sioux Falls School District in English Language Arts had 61% of our students at or exceeding their peers in growth, which exceeded the state percentage. In math, we had 53.45% of our students maintain or exceed the growth of their peers with the same baseline score. And that also exceeded the percentage at the state level as well. And again, these are district-wide results combined all together for grades 3 through 8 and 11. Attendance, in light of September coming to a recent completion, and September was the national, state, and district focus there was a national, state, and district focus on attendance. The attendance goal fits right into that. The goal at the state level is to have 94% of our students attend school 94% of the school year or more, which equates to about 10 or 11 days as a maximum that they can miss to maintain that 94%. The Sioux Falls School District had 80.28% of our students meet that goal. Just slightly above the state of South Dakota, that was at 79.66%. Graduation rate, it is the statewide goal that 85% of students will graduate with their cohort in 4 years and a summer. What that means is the number of students that are entering ninth grade at the same time as any student, that becomes their cohort. And from that day that they enter ninth grade, the state has a goal that 85% of them will graduate within the 4 years and a summer. Dr. Maher?
As you all know, this is a significant piece of our strategic plan. It was before we had this information, but I would tell you a disturbing trend here is that the state of South Dakota actually increased their graduation rate this last year, and we decreased. And when you think about that, it's a significant movement for our state because approximately 1/6 of the students in the state are educated right here in Sioux Falls. So for the state to move the needle forward while our needle was moving backwards is great for the state. It's not great for us, and I promise you that has our full attention.
Okay, moving forward. In addition to a graduation rate, the state also calculates what is called a completion rate. And a completion rate includes any graduates for that year, whether they are inside or outside of their cohort. That means any student who graduated early in 2016 or graduated behind their cohort was included in this rate. If a student graduates early, they're calculated at a full point. However, if a student graduates late, as a district, we get half a point towards this completion rate. Also, any student that completes their GED before they age out at the age of 21 also gives the Sioux Falls School District a half a point credit towards this completion rate. You can see that the Sioux Falls School District had 86.7% completion, which is again behind the state completion rate of 90.26%.
Can I?
Yep, absolutely.
The completion rate, how did we compare year over year on completion rate?
We actually moved backwards just a little bit in this area too.
Okay.
What I can't remember is where the state's completion rate was a year ago. I suspect they ticked up here if their graduation rate ticked up.
Just a little bit, yes, it did.
Okay.
It increased also.
So same phenomena.
Right.
The gap widened between the two.
Okay, thank you.
College readiness in both math and English language arts is calculated based on one of three ways. A student can either have their score or can be counted in the readiness factor based on one of three assessments, either the Smarter Balance, the ACT, or what is called the AccuPlacer. Please keep in mind that if a student does not meet the benchmark for readiness in Smarter Balance, they then have the opportunity to reach that benchmark on the ACT or on the AccuPlacer, but the ACT and the AccuPlacer are both student choice assessments and also student paid assessments. The Smarter Balance is the only one that is taken across the state by every student. Sioux Falls School District had 72.59% of our students test ready, college ready in English language arts, and 72.66% in math. And you can see that we widened the gap from the state percentage most significantly in math. We're a little bit closer to the state percentage in English language arts. All right, taking a look then, that was all of the information on the school performance indicators at the district level. Taking a look at the indicators as a computation at the building level. Each building has a school performance index calculated for them based on the performance indicators that are most appropriate for their level. So if we take a look at how that's calculated, the screen shows that student achievement is 40 of the 100 points, attendance is 20, and academic growth, since this is the first year we've had that data, is also 40 points. And I left last year's calculation so you can see how that achievement data actually split this year between achievement and growth. And at the 9 through 12 level, it's calculated just a little bit differently. The high schools get 40 points from student achievement, 30 from that combination of completion and graduation rate. And school districts have a choice between taking all of their remaining 30 points from college readiness or college and career readiness. And the Sioux Falls School District falls into the college-only readiness category. So our points are calculated that way for our 4 high schools. This shows a total number of schools based on their school performance index that fall into the following categories. We had 3 that were labeled exemplary, 3 schools that were labeled status, 24 progressing schools, 3 focus schools, 2 priority, and 1 small school. The focus and priority schools are bolded because those are the schools that are title, they receive title funds, and they are also labeled focus and priority, meaning they fall into that category of school improvement. There was no reclassification done for this school year as we transition from No Child Left Behind accountability to the ESSA, which is Every Student Succeeds Act. And so because of that change in law, there was no reclassification allowed this year. So the 5 schools that we had last year remained focus and priority for this year, and we'll continue to work on school improvement plans and how to best spend our money to show the greatest growth in school improvement. Looking just really quickly at which schools fall into each category, here are your 3 exemplary schools. Here are your 3 status schools. The progressing 24, except for Patrick Henry, all middle school and high schools fall into this category. The majority of the elementary. Our 3 focus schools, these are the 3 schools where the summer climb program took place last year, not a coincidence, that was an intentional selection. And then our 2 priority schools, our Immersion Center Elementary and our Immersion Center Middle School. And then our small school, which will not exist in the classification this year, the Bridges at Garfield. And if you notice the Spanish Immersion Elementary on the list, that was because when we started the year last year, that's how that school was named. And so that will change to Sonia Sotomayor this year. And that completes my report on school accountability, and I would just ask that the school board acknowledge this report.
Any questions?
I'll maybe make a couple of comments. I think it's interesting to note as you look through those, all of the information. I think when you're somebody that wants to get better, you have a tendency to look at those things that don't look very good. And there are some of those things up there. There are also some things that look really good. And we had some exemplary schools, et cetera. But I think as I look through, what does it mean for us as a district? I really look at our math readiness score above the state average, our ELA readiness score above the state average. When we talk about our ACT results here in a little bit, above the state average. Yet when we see our graduation rates, we're below the state average. So there's a disconnect there. And I think there are a lot of things that come into play as we look at that. And I think as a district, we've really got to get a handle on how do we address those students who aren't in that readiness, on the positive side of those readiness indicators. I think that is really our challenge as a district as we move forward. Part of our challenge is to continue to do some of those things that we're doing exemplary right now. The other part of the challenge is to try to address that disconnect between the readiness aspect of what we do and the graduation rate. So I think that'll be part of our mission that we'll attempt to accomplish through the strategic plan.
Any questions?
I think I see one school missing, Susan B. Anthony. Didn't see Susan B. Anthony on the list,
I will check on that.
unless I can't read small print.
Is that the same one that you questioned before? Okay. I will check on that. Thank you for
Okay.
pointing that out.
Okay, any further questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to acknowledge results from the 2016 accountability report?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, post-secondary.
All right, moving into the next report is the post-secondary records of enrollment and graduation. This data comes to us from the National Clearinghouse report that we receive every year, based on every spring of the year, based on the prior year's graduates. So the report tonight will focus on the graduates of the class of 2015 and past. If you will take a look at Chart A in this report, Chart A is the results of, comes to us from the results of a study that was done in 2010, and it really focuses on how the jobs in America are leaning more and more towards requiring a degree of some kind in some sort of post-secondary education. So as you can see from 1973 to 2018, which is projected, obviously, the percent increases from 28 to 62% requiring some sort of post-secondary training. Chart B on the next page shows you the schools and institutions that report their data to the National Clearinghouse, which there are quite a few of them in existence there that, and keep in mind, this is from the 2015 graduates, so this data also goes back for a few years prior to that. So there are some universities that no longer exist on that chart that will eventually come off of that chart as the graduates phase out of still attending those universities or still having those universities have their data count. Down below, you can see the initial enrollment records of district graduates over the last 8 years from 2008 to 2015. And you can see that 5 of the top 6, as far as number of students who enrolled, have access to their university right here in the city of Sioux Falls, with SDSU and USD both having access to their universities here. I found that a little bit significant. Moving on then to Chart C. Chart C shows us the percent of students that were enrolled in college the fall immediately after high school by institutional location. And when I was looking over this afternoon, I realized that the Chart C and Chart D data both did not have the updated line for 2015 and 2013 included in them, so I apologize for that. And I will get that updated and sent to Dr. Maher so he can share that with you. The data does show the same trend over the last 3 years, though, and that is that it is decreasing slightly at all of those levels, both all institutions in-state and out-of-state. Looking at Chart D, the same thing occurred when I looked up that information in 2013, which would be the next line on that chart. After 2012, it drops from 70% to 68% in the first 2 years, and the fall immediately after high school drops from 62% to 59%. So there definitely is a trend with our graduates having less percentage of them enroll in college either the first year or the first 2 years after high school. The next chart on the next page, chart E, shows that if we look at graduating classes for 4 years after they graduate, we can take a look at the percent who either maintained enrollment in a post-secondary institution or completed some sort of degree, whether it be a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. And so 2011 is the furthest that we can go out with this data to have 4 years of information for that class. And again, as would be predicted from the prior 2 charts, those percentages of students who are remaining or finishing post-secondary education, the first, the second, the third, and the 4th year after graduating is on the decline. Are there any questions on the information that I have shared with you this evening?
So do we get national data on this? Do we have access to national data?
We have access to national data through a number of other research and studies as well. This information comes back to us from the clearinghouse on how where our graduates are going and what they're doing. But there is the National Education Statistics, I think it's
NCES.
Thank you, NCES, then, yes. And that gives us information on the national trend, which it depends on how you look at it. In some areas, yes, it is decreasing, but in other areas, college enrollment is increasing also. So there's a little bit of different views that you can take on, on this. And are we comparing to the national trend, or are we going the opposite direction?
Well, I would say there's 2 trends. One, maybe nationally, what's it doing from a trend perspective, but then probably more applicable would be, we're a different district than we were back in 2007. So our demographics and makeup are different, and you'd have to find schools that would have similar demographics to ours, what the state calls gap and non-gap, and then how would we perform against like schools? It's not making excuses. It's trying to say, well, 57%, the trend is down for our district, but we have a lot of, we're a different district than we were. And so, maybe in the future, it might help to say what are like districts to our makeup. What are they seeing for enrollment, just as a benchmark, if it's available out there.
I know it's definitely of an interest to us, especially in light of this report and the other reports in the last couple of weeks. And we do have plans in place to do some exit survey with our seniors this year that will hopefully give us a little bit of indication as to what they are choosing to do if they choose not to go on to post-secondary education, and why, and taking a look at that as just a start to try to determine why our trend is going the way that it is, and if there's something that we can do differently.
Well, it's just going to be good dialogue to have with our community, because when you compare yourself to 2007, we're not the same district, and so it's not to say we shouldn't hold ourselves to high standards still, but there's a lot of challenges underneath that, and so to be able to benchmark ourselves against like districts is probably a good benchmark for us, rather than just look at a trend of our district. So just, in the future.
Just a comment or question. When I was going through the reports, preparing for the meeting, I looked at the accountability report and the report we got last week, and we are focused on but on college readiness in our accountability report. We don't test for or look at career readiness. That category has been left open. And when I look at our graduation rates and our number of students that are going on to post-secondary, which I think any of us would agree, if you look at purely what earning power is going to be, what a lot of those factors are, post-secondary education does contribute to that. But I think realistically, we need to look at the fact that not every student that we want to graduate from high school is necessarily going to go on to post-secondary. And are we doing as a district the very best job that we can to make sure that those students get the best education and get that college diploma or the high school degree diploma, so that if they're wanting to go into the workforce right away, are we preparing them for that? Or are we making an assumption that everybody needs to be ready to go on to post-secondary? As we go through our implementing the strategic plan, those are some questions that I have, and just making sure that we're doing the best job preparing every student for whatever their future may be, and that may not be post-secondary. So, just comment.
Any other questions, comments? May I please have a motion to acknowledge the information report on post-secondary enrollment?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. ACT.
All right, thank you. My last report of the evening is focused on, if you are going to go to college, most students in this region of the country take the ACT. That report will be given to you tonight on our 2016 graduates and how they did on that exam. Looking at district averages, this falls in line with the census information falls in line with what we have been discussing this evening as far as number of students graduating, the decline in the number, and then the decline in the number of students entering post-secondary education. That falls in line with the percent of our graduates who are taking the ACT. And I added the percent column in here because it does differ when we have different sizes of graduating classes, so looking at just the raw numbers doesn't quite give us the same picture as the percentage of our graduates. And all of the information tonight I will give you in a 5-year history. Taking a look first at our English subtest results. The ACT is made up of 4 different subtests, so students get a score in 4 different subtests, plus they get a composite score. And then just recently, they have also created a STEM score for students based on the results of their subtests. Over the last 5 years, and you will see this in many different charts this evening, we had a dip in our results in 2012-13, and then those scores came back and were on the rise after that, with English being no exception. We still maintain our students have a better average than the state average and the national average in the English subtest. Moving on to the mathematics portion of the test. Not quite as big of a dip in math in 2012, but just a little bit. And we again are on a steady rise back up from there again, exceeding the state and the national average subtest score. For those that might be listening or in attendance this evening that are not familiar with how the ACT is scored, those scores are on a maximum score of 36. So that's where these numbers are coming from. These are average scale scores for the subtest. Taking a look at reading. Again, a little bit of a dip in 2012-13, but a much more significant rise from there. And we are exceeding where we had started in 2011-12 with this 5-year trend, and above the state and far above the national average subtest score in reading. And you can kind of see that if you look at the chart and the way that the gap widens as you go across the 5 years. Taking a look at science reasoning, we have continued to grow over the last 5 years in this area as well, exceeding the state average and far exceeding the national average subtest score in this area also. So again, when Dr. Maher talks about finding the positives, we definitely are doing things well, and our seniors are performing well on the ACT. Taking a look then at all of these scores averaged together, students get a composite score, and we always are looking to increase our district average composite score. This year we're coming in at a 22.9, above the state and above the national average composite score. Talking then in terms of college readiness, which is what the ACT is designed to tell students, is are they ready to go to college? The ACT has determined benchmarks for their different subtests, and what these benchmarks tell students is that they have a 75% chance of earning a C or better if they meet the benchmark in these categories once they go on to college classes in that same category. Or if they meet or exceed the benchmark, they have a 50% chance or higher of getting a B or higher in those same college classes. So when you compare the percentage of students that take the ACT at the national, the state, and the district level, we exceed the percentage in all categories at both the national and the state level. We had 74% of our students meet or exceed the benchmark in English, 61% in math, 59% in reading, 54% in science, and we had 40% or more, 40% of our students reach or exceed the benchmark in all 4 of their subtests.
Can you explain that? Maybe I'm not understanding the math.
Yep, absolutely. So if you take the ACT, the college readiness benchmark is for math. We'll just take that one, for example, is a 22. If you get a 22 or higher, that means that you are a strong candidate for being successful in college math classes.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm talking about the all 4.
Oh.
Why
all
is it only at 40% when we're 54% and above in all the other subjects?
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
okay.
I might be in that 61% in math, I might be in that 59% in reading, and I might be in that 54% in science, but I might not have met the benchmark in English, and so it's just a matter of how those numbers play out.
Okay,
And those are just that's the percentage of students who meet all 4.
thank you.
It's not an average of those.
And if I, as a student, take the ACT more than once,
Yes.
then are my results as if they were 2 independent students? Or is it me as a repeated student?
Great question. The results that we get from the ACT are your best subtest scores and your best composite score. So it takes the student's best in each of the different areas that they're identifying.
So if I took it 2 times and I scored really well in English and math the first time, and I improved my scores in reading and science the second time, it would take those 4 tests, or those 4 scores, even though it was on 2 separate dates of taking it?
Correct.
Okay.
And then it will take your best composite on that test date.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Great questions. All right, then the other thing that that the ACT does is it surveys students based on the curriculum that they have taken at that point when they take the ACT. And so the following slides are based on what students report when they sign up for the ACT and register. And it takes their coursework and it determines if they are a student who has taken the core or higher curriculum or less than the core curriculum. And the core curriculum is considered the college prep curriculum, so your traditional courses that they recommend for being college ready. And so if you take a look at our frequency of number of students who have taken the ACT, the next column shows you how many of those students took the core or more and how many took the less than core curriculum. One of the reasons the ACT breaks this down is because they want districts to be able to determine if our students took the college prep curriculum, did they do well on the ACT? So the following slides will take a look at those subtests again and break it down that way. Taking a look then at our English scores, you'll recognize the first column of scores from the earlier slide on English because that's the same 5-year trend. And then it compares our students who took the core curriculum versus those who took less than the core curriculum. We would expect those who took the core curriculum to have a higher average. Taking a look at math. I messed it up again. I thought I fixed it and I did not, so I apologize. The first column is incorrect. The second and the third column are correct. So the core or more scored a 23.1 and the less than core scored a 22 average. And those are still the English ones in the first column, and I apologize. Taking a look at the reading, the same issue. The middle column is how our core or more students did as an average on the reading subtest, and the last column is how those who took less than the core curriculum performed. And again, on science, not looking at the first column, pretend that's not there, the core or more in the middle column, and those that took less than the core in the last column.
I think those of us that have the report, it's correct.
Is it correct on there?
The
It's just
numbers
not
are
correct on-
different, so I'm assuming the report
It did get
is-
fixed?
yeah, so-
Okay, thank you. I just pulled up the wrong PowerPoint slide then. And then the composite as well. And that is the end of the ACT report. If you have questions, I would be more than happy to answer those.
So looking at the prior report, I would have expected to see that in the participation rate. Doesn't
Yes.
make me happy, but it's happening. But it's again, what is, the participation rate I'm seeing in my school district, how does it match up to like schools, as opposed to maybe trend? And then it's, I guess I've never seen a report, and it would be interesting in the future to see the trend on our students, how many students are taking core and non-core, and what we're seeing with that. It speaks to rigor, and it's probably a good leading indicator, probably as early as, I don't know how soon we identify that, freshman, sophomore year, but it's probably a good indicator of what's to come. And I've never seen a report on that. It would be interesting somewhere down the road to see what we're seeing from a trend perspective on that. I suspect I know what we'll see, but it would be interesting just to know. So,
And the results with the ACT are we're at the mercy of what the students report when we get this data, but they do ask, they give them examples of have you taken, and that's kind of how they identify themselves in one of those two categories.
sure.
So,
But we know that
But, right, we
internally
can-
to the
yes.
district. Just from if I did nothing else but look at my 1,600 per, class in high school or per cohort, what that's done over time as far as kids that are taking core versus
The non-core.
a lesser version. It would just be interesting at some point in the future to see that. I think it would be a good leading indicator for us as to what, from a trending perspective.
Okay.
So, but good reports.
Thank
so.
you. Any other questions?
No other questions for Demi? May I please have a motion to acknowledge the results of the 2016 ACT report?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thanks, Demi.
Thank you.
Kate is going to help us with the policy tonight.
Yes, and for those of you in the audience and listening at home, we regularly review our district policies here at our meetings. So this is just the part in the report that we go over all of those. So first one up is a second reading, the district policy AH, which was drafted to comply with the new state law dealing with conflicts of interest. It was posted for public review on the district website, and no comments were received. So I move to approve the approval of policy AH, disclosure and waiver of contractual conflicts.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
The next set of policies, A, B, C, and D, are as follows. DFG and its accompanying regulation, revenues from non-tax sources and tuition. Policy DFGB, revenues from non-tax sources and material funds. Policy DIA and its accompanying regulation, accounting system, trust and agency funds. EGA, communication services. You can tell it was a really exciting policy meeting we had. Todd got to present to us. There were no significant changes to these policies, so I move to approve the review, revision of the above policies and accompanying regulations.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
And the last two policies are up for first reading. The first one is ECAB and its accompanying regulation, access to grounds and buildings, and IKF and its accompanying regulation, graduation requirements. These were, let's see, ECAB was updated to clarify practices that are currently in place and to improve access control to enhance facility security. IKF and its accompanying regulation was updated to clarify the district's credit acceptance procedures for all types of credits. The changes ensure that the district has established procedures to comply with a new state law that became effective July 1st, dictating the terms for accepting credits received outside of the school term. These policies and regulations will be posted for public review on the school district website and will return to the board on November 14th for a second reading. So I move to approve ECAB and its accompanying regulation and IKF and its accompanying regulation.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And I move that we go into executive session per South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-24.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.